Hi, I'm Bonnie with the Carrying On Project, and today we are going to talk about how to use your Mei Tai. A Mei Tai is an Asian-style baby carrier and is basically a square of fabric with 4 sashes. The short sashes go around your waist. The long sashes go over your shoulders. Mei Tais can be made out of all different types of fabric. This one in particular was made by Catbird Baby, who is a very strong supporter of the Carrying On Project, and we are always so thankful for their support. All carriers have advantages and disadvantages, all types of carriers. A Mei Tai's main advantage is that it is very, very flexible. So that means it's a great carrier from the very beginning, starting with infants about 8 pounds or so, and then well up into toddlerhood. This one safety tests up to 35 pounds, but you want to check the weight restrictions for the carrier, the specific carrier that you have. But it can definitely be worn well into toddlerhood. The disadvantage or challenge of the Mei Tai is that because it's so flexible, it has to be tied every time, and sometimes that is, some people find that hard to work with the sashes. But again, that's its advantage as well, and we're going to talk about how to do that here in a little bit. But just first, a little bit of safety. The most important things to remember safety-wise when it comes to wearing any type of carrier is that babies should always be visible and close enough for you to kiss. That means that when they're really small, you're actually going to wear them fairly high on your body. You always want their head to be high enough so that you can easily bend down and kiss the top of their head. And the reason why we do this is because that keeps them close enough to you to be able to monitor their breathing. So what you want to listen for is you want to listen for them to make either a wheezing or a grunting or even like a snoring sound, and that can indicate that their airway has become restricted. You also should be able to get 1 to 2 of your fingers underneath baby's chin, between their chin and their chest. That will ensure that their airway is straight and will keep it clear. But again, if you are always wearing baby visible, so there's nothing covering their head, nothing to cover their airway, and close enough to kiss, if something does happen and their airway becomes restricted, you will be able to monitor that because they're close enough for you to hear their breathing. So if you remember nothing else, remember visible and kissable. Now let's put baby on. To do a basic front carry in your Mei Tai, you're going to start by tying it on kind of like an apron. You want to have the top of the Mei Tai facing down, and the decorative part that you want facing out, you want to start with that facing towards your body. So I'm going to tie it on around my waist. The short straps will go around my waist here, and I'm going to tie it in a knot. Bows are really pretty, but knots are safe. So we're going to start with a square or a double knot. So now I'm going to grab my baby. Now, this baby doll is a little bit small for this Mei Tai. So yours would actually stick up a little bit higher. Their legs would come out the sides a little bit more, but this is what I have to work with at the moment. Also, a little bit later in this video, I'm going to show you how to make some adjustments to this carrier to make it fit a baby of this size a little bit better. So you're going to start by putting baby against your chest, just like this. And then you're going to put your hand underneath the front panel and bring it up over their back. And now you can switch hands and you have baby's weight with the other hand. Now I'm going to take the sashes and I'm going to throw them over my shoulder, and I'm going to try to do this in a way that it crisscrosses my back, because now I'm going to reach around and I'm going to grab the opposite strap. So I actually have this strap here. So now I'm going to come around and I'm going to replace my hands, still holding baby's weight, and I'm going to hold the sash in my hand. I'm going to do the same thing. So now I actually have baby's weight, and as you can see, my straps are crossed in the back. So now I'm going to do just a little bounce real quick, and what that's going to do is that's going to take out the extra slack in the carrier, and it's going to make sure that I've got good back support here. The way that you support baby's back is not with the straps, it's with the carrier. So by making sure that the carrier is nice and tight and that there's not any slack, that will ensure that baby has good back support. So now with the straps, what I'm aiming to do is to bring them across in a way that closes off this gap here on the side of the Mei Tai. Now, what I'm not going to do, like I just said, we're not going to bring them across here and then tie, because although that would close off the sides, it's actually going to put a knot right in baby's spine, and we don't want that. That's not comfortable for very long. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to aim down towards thumb, and I'm going to tie right here under baby's bum. My baby doll's bum is about right there. So depending on the length of your straps, you can do a double knot right here and you're all done. But because I've got extra straps, I can do a couple of things. I can either cross and come underneath baby's legs, or I'm going to do a little twist. And some people feel like the twist actually gives them a little bit more support for baby's bum. So, and then I'm just going to bring the rest around, tie that off in a double knot, and I am pretty much ready to go. So that is how to do a basic front carry in your Mei Tai. You can also do a back carry with your Mei Tai. We do recommend that new wearers wait until baby can sit unassisted, which is usually about 6 months before you back carry. At that point, they will also have good, strong head and trunk control, which is also necessary. You also want to make sure that you are proficient with front carries before you start back carrying. You just want to understand the mechanics of how the carrier works and everything before you start to back carry. So let's talk about how to back carry in your Mei Tai. We're going to start off the same way as we did with the front carry, with the carrier upside down and with the front panel towards your body. But we are going to tie it, obviously, on our back. Now, one of the tricks is I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that my carrier is centered on my back, and I will show you why in just a second. So we are just going to tie that off in a double knot, and I'm going to enlist the help of my friendly Miss Minnie Mouse. There are different ways to get baby on your back, but I prefer to do the hip scoot, so that is what I'm going to show you how to do today. So you want to start off with baby on your hip as far around as you can, but you still want to be able to hold their weight with this hand, so not too far around. So I'm going to hold weight with this one. I'm going to come up and over with this one. Thankfully your baby does not have a giant nose. I'm going to then replace my hands. So now I have the same hand as I have on my hip. So I'm going to then take their weight with that one. I'm going to come around with this hand. I'm going to make sure that their legs are kind of coming around. And then I'm going to hop and hop their weight to my back. So 1, 2, 3, hop. And now baby or Minnie is on my back. Now, everyone's first instinct is to grab one of the sashes and pull straight up. But as you can see, that actually pulls the carrier off to the side. So what we're going to do before we do anything, we're going to take the body panel of the Mei Tai and we're going to flip it up over baby's back. So now I am confident the baby is centered on my back, just like because I centered my carrier, so now baby is centered on my back, and the panel is coming up and over baby's back. So now I'm going to take one of the straps and I'm going to come over, and I like to put it in between my knees. That keeps tension on it. So then I'm going to bring the other one, do the same thing, and I'm going to come up and over. Now I have baby's weight on both straps. So now I'm going to take just a second and hop baby just like I did on the front. So make sure they're seated down nicely into that carrier and that there's not any slack. So unlike a front carry, with a back carry, I can either cross the straps or I cannot cross the straps. I prefer to not cross the straps. So I'm going to come straight underneath my arms here, and now, just like with a, on the front, Minnie Mouse's hand is doing something strange. Okay. I want to try to close off this gap here. So I'm going to come across the body, which will be over their leg. Now, depending on the length of my straps, I can tie off underneath baby's bum and be ready to go. But since I have extra, I can either cross or I'm going to do a twist. So I'm going to come here, do a twist. Now I'm going to come underneath their legs, and that doesn't put any tension on their legs. So now I'm going to tie off again in another square knot, and we are good to go. Now, to take baby out, you want to make sure that as you are loosening this knot, that you keep tension on the straps, because once that knot is released, the straps can loosen and baby can fall. So you want to make sure that you keep those straps very tight. So now I'm going to lean over and release those straps. I'm going to take one of my hands, I'm going to come back and I'm going to grab baby or Minnie in my case, and I'm going to uncross those straps and loosen everything up. Now I'm going to take one hand and come in between baby and carrier. That way I can let the carrier drop completely, and when I bring baby around, I know they're not going to get tangled up in the carrier. So now I'm just going to bring baby around bum first, under one or the other arm, up, and you're ready to go. So that is how to do a basic back carry in your Mei Tai. You can also do a hip carry with your Mei Tai, but you definitely want to wait, just like the back, you want to wait until baby is sitting unassisted and has good head, neck, and trunk control. So we're going to start off the same way as we do with all the other carries, with the Mei Tai facing down and the outside of the front panel facing our body. So I'm going to put it on whichever hip I prefer, and then I'm just going to knot that. All right, so now I'm going to grab Miss Minnie Mouse again, and I'm going to simply put her on my hip. So then I'm going to bring that back panel up and over her back. So now I'm going to take this front strap and drape it over my shoulder. Now this back strap is actually going to go straight across my back. So I'm going to grab that with the opposite hand, and you can see that is going across my back. So now I am going to hold on to that and switch hands. So now I have baby's weight with this hand. And then I'm going to grab that other strap here, and I'm going to come across my back, and now I have baby's weight with both straps. And Minnie Mouse's hand can kind of like that. Okay. So now just like I did front and back, I'm going to do a little hop, and I'm going to tighten up those straps. Now, with a hip carry, because of kind of the little bit of awkward way with the way I'm holding, it would be hard for me to come back around with her on my hip to tie over here. So with this one, we're always going to tie right underneath baby's bum. So I'm just going to tie that in a square knot right there. Now, since I have extra strap and it might get in the way, then I can take that and just kind of tie it off however I want. I might tie it off back here just to get it out of the way. But as you can see, it would be hard for me to hold baby's weight, make sure baby was safe and secure, and then tie somewhere else. So that's why we always tie underneath bum for a hip carry. To undo that, Just like everything else, we want to make sure we have baby's weight when we loosen that knot. Out, uncross, down, and we're ready to go. Let's talk about carrying a newborn with your Mei Tai. We said that one of the major advantages of the Mei Tai style of carrier is that it is very, very flexible. And one of the best ways to see that is when it comes to carrying a newborn. So the major challenge of carrying a newborn in a lot of different carrier types is that the carrier is fairly large and the baby is fairly small or very small. So the first thing that we need to do here is we need to make this carrier shorter. So what we're going to do, instead of tying like we did, it's still going to be face down with the front panel facing our body. But instead of tying like this, we're going to fold the waistband over. And that is going to make the body of the carrier shorter. And I'm actually going to tie higher on my body as well, because like we talked about in the safety section, baby should always be visible and kissable. So if baby's very small, I need to wear her very high. So now you can see that my carrier is shorter. So the second thing is that babies, when they're first born, they're very, very froggied. So their legs are usually very bent up in their body. So what we want to do, what we don't want to do is force their legs out to straddle our body like we would with an older child. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a seat for them so that their feet can be inside the carrier. So let me show you how to do that. I am going to take a receiving blanket, or as I have here, a lap pad, which is about the same thing. And I'm going to roll it up so that I can create a seat. So now I'm going to grab my baby, my pretend tiny little baby, and I am going to place this right here. So now when I pull the carrier panel up this way, baby is actually now sitting on the blanket and not on their feet. So anytime baby's feet are inside of the carrier, you want to make sure that you are very, very careful and very aware of where their feet are and what their feet are doing. So you don't want them standing on their toes. You don't want their feet in any strange position. You don't want any extra binding on their feet like that. So we're going to be very careful of that. And I can reach in here and feel that baby is actually sitting on that rolled up receiving blanket and not standing on their feet. So that is the other thing that we want to be very careful with, is that baby, anytime baby's feet are in, is that they get a standing reflex fairly quickly, and we want to make sure that they are not able to stand up and out of the carrier. So like this, even though their feet aren't out, I still want to make sure that I'm not tying across their back. So I'm going to come across here, and I'm going to cross the straps, and then I'm going to come back around and then tie off. So that is how I would do legs in with a small infant or newborn, using a receiving blanket or a lap pad like I have. So once baby gets a little bit bigger, or from the very beginning, depending on the size of your carrier, I can also adjust the panel of the carrier. And again, this is really where a Mei Tai begins to shine, because it can have so many adjustments made to it. So if I were going to carry, say, my original demo doll, what I can do is I can take a string, a ribbon like I have here, or even a hairband, and tie it around the base of the carrier. Now this will make the carrier panel shorter, so that way baby's legs can actually be out from an earlier point. So with my original demo doll, I actually now can pull the carrier up in between her legs. And now her legs can be out. And as you can see, this is a better fit for this baby than the original way that I wrapped her, because this doll is actually smaller. So this would be the way that I would wear a baby that was more like this size, probably more like 3 months or so. So again, just like I did before, I'm still going to come across over her legs and then back under and then tie off. So that is how to use a hair tie to shorten the body panel of the carrier. So between folding over the waistband and using either a receiving blanket or shortening the panel, cinching the panel in, you can use a Mei Tai from fairly early on and then on into toddlerhood. Nursing in your Mei Tai is actually really easy. Generally what you want to do, say you've got them in a front carry, you are just going to loosen those straps and then you're going to give it a little bit of slack. Now, my demo doll doesn't have a whole lot of weight to her, so generally this would be a little bit easier because baby's weight is just going to drop them down. So I'm going to drop bum down to breast height so that their head is in line with my breast, and then I'm going to tie under bum. And when I'm nursing, I'm just going to keep it tight under bum because I'm not going to stay there forever. And it'll be easier to undo to go again. So now I am just going to latch on and I'm ready to go. Now I can do both sides on the front. You can also do the same thing in a hip carry, but you will have to switch hips to switch sides. So once baby is done, then I'm just going to undo the knot, making sure that I have baby's weight. And then I'm just going to hop, 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 tighten back up, and now I can tie off however I like to tie off. And that is how you nurse in your Mei Tai. If you'd like more information about our organization and how we are helping military families carry on, please see our website. And thank you so much, everyone, for your continued support of the Carrying On Project.